So for the first time in what feels like ages, Doctor Who is back after just a week and not a months-long wait. Wild Blue Yonder is here, and I'd like to talk about it. If you saw my video on the Star Beast last week, you'll know that I forgave that episode a lot of its flaws because it was doing so much heavy lifting for the era ahead. You know, it was setting up an incredible foundation for what was to come, but that meant my opinion on it depended on whether the second and third specials really delivered. So that was the pressure that Wild Blue Yonder was facing when I entered into it last night, alongside a whole load of other pressure, because this was the special that no one knew anything about. There were no leaks, there were no filming photos taken on location because everything was shot in the studio. There were all these kind of speculations and expectations that were going up into it because people thought, oh, you know, we've not seen any other Doctors. Maybe Matt Smith, Peter Capaldi, Jodie Whittaker, you know, maybe David Bradley voices the little robot. Maybe Susan's in it. Maybe the whole spaceship is actually a TARDIS. Maybe it's Zagreus Part 2. All these things that people were going into, I think, expecting this 60th anniversary celebration to tick all the boxes that we've come to expect from an anniversary celebration. And they did tease us with it as well because they knew we knew nothing and they were keeping it out of trailers. And I think in the Doctor Who magazine cast list it said David Tennant, Catherine Tate, and then 3 redacted names which had people obviously losing their minds and guessing pretty much every Doctor Who character under the sun. But then, you know, a couple of days ago the director came out and said, you know what, guys, we've not been hiding things from you because it's huge cameo fest, you know, anniversary excitement. We've been doing it because, you know, we think it would be good if you could go into this one blind and just not knowing what to expect. And everyone was like, yeah, sure, we're not going to believe you. That's what Andrew Garfield said about Spider-Man. It's just like, yeah, it is, but it's also probably what he would have said about Spider-Man if he wasn't in Spider-Man. So after months of speculation and anticipation and all building up our own version of Wild Blue Yonder in our heads, the actual episode is here and we can talk about it. And I guess the main question is, did it live up to the hype? And the answer is, yeah, of course it did. It was incredible. Who would have thought that all those things they were keeping secret were actually just cool plot details they didn't want us to know ahead of time? I mean, I think that's great. I think we should go into more episodes knowing very little. I love being surprised, and I feel like that's something that we're all clamoring to know more and clamoring to get as much info as we can before the episode, and that the element of surprise has kind of gone. And if something is kept a secret, we think it's got to be because there's something huge. But, you know, obviously they had a bit of fun with the teasing of the redacted names that were probably just Catherine Tate, David Tennant, Catherine Tate, David Tennant, Bernard Cribbins, obviously. But, you know, I think they knew what they were doing there, but at the same time, it wasn't a lie. Yeah, this was a really, really good episode, and I guess I'd like to dive into why. See, got that in there. Obviously, this episode pretty much just being the 2 lead actors and no one else. You really just have to talk about the performances if you want to talk about this episode. And quite frankly, they were both fantastic. Catherine Tate was the standout last week and returns with an incredibly strong performance here. I really enjoyed her as the evil creature that was pretending to be Donna. I feel like we're going to need, fandom-wise, a name for these things. I've seen people call them the not things, the nothing Donna. I don't know yet, really, what we're going to call them, but that's so cool, isn't it? Because eventually we'll just go, oh, you know, the episode in Wild Blue Yonder, you know, when the Flower Blackses are there. I mean, obviously I don't want them to have a name. Maybe it'll be like the Midnight Creature. What am I talking about? I really liked her as the not Donna, who was, you know, she was just so off. You know, she'd do a look and you'd just be like, oh, no, that's not Donna. I like Donna, and that's mean. Maybe I'll call her Mean Donna. She has some lovely moments in this episode with the Doctor and with the not Doctor, and as the Donna and as the not Donna, and I think just a really great job. But for me, the real standout this week was David Tennant. He was fucking insane. Like, one of the best performances in a single episode that I think anyone has ever done in Doctor Who. Like, as the Doctor, he's pushed so far into so many different extremes of fear and vulnerability and, you know, and kind of intensity and an intimacy and kind of kindness that he shows Donna in that scene there. He's so brilliant in this role, and I'm already, you know, obviously I'm so excited for Ncuti, but I'm already like, oh, I don't want this to end. You know, and this is awful. Maybe I'll be one of those people that stops watching when Tennant leaves, because there were quite a few last time. But Jesus, he's so good. I said last week that one of the main joys of the 14th Doctor was seeing him interact with the other characters, like the different sides that come out of him when we see him talk to Sean, or to Shirley, or to Sylvia, or Rose. But this time, it's mostly just Donna, or himself, or he's alone. And he's incredible in this as well. I feel like there is nothing that this Doctor can't do. He's just unbelievable. And he's so good as the mean, evil Doctor, the not Doctor. He's just... I love that he's still thinking and talking like the Doctor, but in a way that is frankly quite scary. And like the way he can sit there and look just a little bit off with Donna. And, you know, like he's maybe a bit too passive in that conversation, and that slowly kind of dawns on you. But what I really love, I think my favourite scene in the whole thing is when I think the glass door is between them and the two Doctors are just trying to think, not think, and outthink one another. And the Doctor is figuring things out, but the more he figures it out, the more they know. And it's just an incredible concept. And I mean this in the highest praise. It's a very Stephen Moffat concept that I think Russell T Davies has executed really well. And I think the primary function of these villains being that they push our characters to their limits and past their limits and find out so much about them is such an incredible, incredible concept. Like, obviously there's the lore reason of, oh, you know, the more that they're thinking and the more they're overthinking and worrying about things, the quicker they do it. But just narratively, to to think of that and go, brilliant. This is a character that is designed to push my heroes to their limits and, you know, really see who they truly are. It's just incredible. And again, I think the Heaven Sent comparison has been made. And it's a very similar thing, but not in a way that feels like they're just doing Heaven Sent, but with the Doctor and Donna. It's finding a scenario that forces your characters to open up, not to each other, maybe not even to themselves, but just to the audience, really. It's an incredible thing to see. I was thinking, now that we've got all the stuff out of the way with reintroducing this Doctor and Donna, I was like, I wonder if the second special especially is just going to feel like a Series 4 episode. And premise-wise, you could just slot it in. You could slot it into Series 4 and not a huge amount would change. But the execution of this story is enriched so much by the fact that 15 years have passed for these characters, especially the Doctor, who obviously it's been much longer than 15 years, but 15 years of Doctor Who has happened in the time we've seen since he was last with Donna. And the way it pulls into the Flux and the Timeless Child stuff and makes it really effective, and has David Tennant's Doctor reacting so emotionally in a way that's so visibly traumatized by the events of those series, is so incredible. And I think drawing upon that, I kind of gasped when it happened, like, oh my god, they're doing this, they're going there, and kind of showing a lasting impact on the Doctor. I think it's almost Russell going into, you know, he's got Time War trauma, but using the Flux for that, and I think that's really cool. And obviously, I have my opinions about the Flux storyline, and I have my opinions on the Timeless Children storyline, but I think drawing upon that in a way that really gets to the core of the character, and I think not just pretending that this is the 10th Doctor, he's 903 years old and he's just survived the Time War. I think actually looking at what's happened, and there's someone pointed out on Twitter, there's a Face the Raven musical cue where Donna kind of asks what's happened in the last few years, and he says a lot has happened, and you hear something from Clara's last episode, and all these things that have had such a lasting impact on the Doctor, being able to feel those and feel, even if not specifically, but the weight of them on him is so incredible. And I think I've said incredible so many times, and I don't know if that's because I'm tired and I don't have any good vocabulary, or just because this was an incredible episode. I was saying something, wasn't I? Edit to when I remember. I think specifically drawing on the events of the Chibnall era, which I think, especially the Flux storyline, was one that struggled with consequences. It was one that, you know, we kind of ended it asking, did the universe ever come back? Was that a resolution? You know, they had a resolution to one story, but not really a kind of reset button on some others. And Jodie's Doctor was so closed off and refusing to talk to anyone in a way that made it quite hard to figure out what was going on inside her head a lot of the time. And I think taking that and taking a much more vulnerable Doctor and kind of displaying it so outwardly, and, you know, that real outburst that he has, the fact that, I mean, that was one of the few clips of this episode that was in the trailer, and everyone was like, oh god, what's caused this? It was the Timeless Child stuff. It was being, you know, forced to talk about that and confront that with someone who ended up not being Donna. And just the fact that he, in that moment, you know, he's so emotional from that, but scared, and he doesn't know if he's talking to Donna, and you feel for him, and oh, it's just so good. I want to go and watch it now, so if you guys could just put this video on 2x speed, I'll go and do that when I'm done. The vibes that they managed to establish in this episode are really, really strong and palpable is the word that I kept thinking as I was watching it. And, you know, I think going to the edge of the universe, that's something that, depending on how you frame it, could mean anything, really. I can imagine Matt Smith's Doctor going, "Ooh, look, edge of the universe, isn't this exciting, Amy?" And, like, if the music was going, you know, "Isn't this fun?" You wouldn't question it. But the fact they make you feel this dread and this, like, oh god, everything's fucked. And I think, you know, that's exacerbated by losing the TARDIS translation and all these things and the sonic screwdriver as well, and obviously the TARDIS. But all these things that we've come to kind of rely on as a safety thing, losing that, and, you know, then losing the universe and experiencing just what has happened here, we don't understand, and, you know, the Doctor's guessing and things. I think the vibes are perfectly executed, genuinely perfectly executed, and even to the point where, you know, you feel this incredible dread when you kind of first meet these evil versions of the Doctor and Donna. But then they become CGI kind of massive crawly, you know, Miss Evangelista face morph, you know, Apple photo gallery kind of people. And then after that, they managed to go back to being scary and unsettling. I feel like a much worse episode, or even a slightly worse episode, you would lose the sense of, oh, these guys are a threat as soon as they become kind of silly. But no, they went from horrifying to silly fun, right back to horrifying in a way that I wouldn't have thought possible. And I think that it's a testament to the script, and it's a testament to the performances, because once they are right back to the human faces of Tennant and Tate, you really, really are right back in there with the, oh shit, this is quite bad. Those two scenes that are playing out in parallel and the kind of editing back and forth, it's like, oh, hang on, what? I thought he was just in that room. And then you're like, oh, hang on a second. And the I've used the word dread. That's the word for it. The dread that sinks in as you kind of realize what's going on, and you realize that the Donna that he's talking to and the Doctor that she's talking to are a bit off. And then that line, "My arms are too long," and a couple of the lines like that, but they're said with such calm in a way that makes them just chilling and awful. And I think "My arms are too long" might be one of those Doctor Who lines that kind of gets ingrained into the fandom culture, or even just the wider pop culture, because it's awful. It's not right. Don't say that. Like, you know, it reminds me of "Hey, Who Turned Out the Lights," or "Are You My Mummy," or something like that, you know, is just quoted, and you hear it, and it's not a horrifying, you know, sentence on its own, but if you have the context, it's like, oh no, don't like that. Just really good stuff. And again, those two ones I said were Moffat. So again, well done, Russell, for doing a good Stephen Moffat script. But it's not all sickeningly unsettling. We have a bit of fun at the start with Isaac Newton and the Doctor and Donna in the tree, gravity, mavity, that kind of stuff. But I mean, I thought that was cute and fun, and probably quite a nice thing to start with as we then enter just an hour of hell. But I think there were also a couple of funny moments sprinkled in that weren't to do with mavity and Isaac Newton. Some moments that you laughed at for being funny, and some that you laughed for kind of like a aha, you know, like, oh god, that's clever, or I figured something out. And I think it's just such an exhilarating episode to watch from start to finish. And I think deft was a word I used last week, such a deft tonal balance that I was just so impressed with. A creature that struggles to understand the concept of shape is just one of those golden nugget Doctor Who ideas that is just one for the ages, really. And one, I guess, that you can only really do now when the kind of CG and practical effects are good enough that you can kind of bring this idea to life. I think the physical props that were used for the massive hands or the knee and the bendy stuff like that, and then the combination of the cilia, big CG jaw falling down, all this stuff, I think that was used really effectively. I mean, the visuals weren't always perfect in this episode. I think that's something that I rarely complain about is wonky CG in Doctor Who, but I guess maybe that's a standard we're going to have to hold slightly higher. I never really got the sense, especially in that big, long corridor, it didn't feel like they were anywhere really. And you know, I saw on Doctor Who Unleashed, like, oh, we did all this stuff with the lighting. It never really seemed to match where the Doctor and Donna were standing. And you know, that's a shame. And I think if that had felt a little bit more like a physical space, as soon as they leave that big corridor and enter what's very clearly a set, the design and the kind of everything surrounding it, and the thought that's gone into it is clearly incredible. You know, the weird goo computer and you know, this weird clummy kind of nonsense that, you know, viscous computery stuff, weird but good, and like liquid in the tubes that is making everything really cool design stuff. Yeah, not perfect execution, but a lot of great ideas at play. I wasn't sure about the TARDIS showing up exactly when it did. I think the logic of it, like, recognizing that the danger's over and that, you know, the two were about to be destroyed in the explosion, that was one thing. And I think that's an absolutely fine reason for the TARDIS to come back and perfectly set up with the discussion of the HADs earlier on. But I think that I wasn't actually sure at that point that the evil, you know, running on all fours Doctor wasn't going to catch up to Jimbo. I thought that, like, there was a bit of jeopardy there on that, and then the Doctor was like, oh, if he's too late to stop the countdown, then the TARDIS will know that there's no more danger. And I was like, oh, yeah, but I didn't know that this person was going to be too late, really. I think maybe if the editing had been just given it slightly longer at the, oh, he's not going to make it, then that would be one thing. But I guess if you do linger on it for too long, then people can't get into the TARDIS and survive the explosion, which Donna nearly didn't. And it feels stupid to admit this, but I know I'm comforted by the fact I know I'm not the only one. I thought Donna might die. I can't remember the last time I watched a mid-season-ish episode of Doctor Who and felt real jeopardy for one of the characters like that. Like, oh my god, is this character just going to be killed in special 2 of 3, you know, without ever going home to her daughter or to Wilf or whatever? But I really considered it for a moment. I was like, oh god, is this where it ends for her? Which is ridiculous, obviously. But it again, it shows the quality of the storytelling, is that you go, you know, you've been so shaken by the experience that you're willing to accept that, yeah, maybe this could be the end for one of them. Probably not the Doctor, but, you know, who knows? But I'm glad she didn't die, because 1, I like Donna, and 2, it means we get that lovely debrief scene in the TARDIS afterwards. And I really love that conversation now. I think they've both been brought to such a raw emotional state that they're in a great position to have a lovely open conversation. Although the Doctor isn't quite as open with Donna as he ended up being with fake Donna about all the Timeless Child stuff. And he's kind of probing, kind of like, oh, how much do you actually know? How much do you still remember? I've had a couple of conversations about this, but this is one that I'd love for the comments. Do you think Donna knows a bit more than she kind of lets on? I wonder if she, you know, the sense that I got was that she says, oh no, I don't, you know, all that stuff I got when I, you know, melded minds with you, I don't remember that. But I wonder if she does, and she just is giving the Doctor the option to tell her in a more kind of consensual way than just to share minds with each other. But, you know, I'd love to know if you think the same thing. But obviously, that wasn't the last scene. We got the final scene with Wilf. I love Wilf so much, and Bernard Cribbins is just such a delight. And something that really struck me about this scene, and it makes perfect sense, is that it felt really normal. It felt like, it wasn't like, hallelujah. It wasn't like, look guys, Wilf, oh, you know, wipe your tears away. And obviously that comes because it's Wilf, and that's going to do that. But it wasn't like it wasn't Wilf worshipping so much as it was just, yeah, that's Wilf, he's there, we love him, but there's stuff going on. I wonder if it would have been different if they'd known it would be his last scene. I think that's something that is one of those production things that has changed the context of something. Is that this was going to be Wilf's reintroduction and not his goodbye. He was going to film more stuff for the giggle, and they didn't. But the fact that he got one last scene, and the fact that he got a reunion with the Doctor and Donna, and just to see that on screen, it's so special and so heartwarming and heartbreaking and all these things. And, you know, the fact that the scene they got with him was something so complete and whole, and it wasn't just, you know, random exterior shots that they then had to scrap because they didn't have the interior stuff to go with it, which they might have some stuff for the giggle that we're not going to see. But no, that was a real special moment. And again, I think I appreciate that they treat Wilf as oh look, there's Donna's granddad, rather than let's worship the ground at Bernard Cribbins' feet. But yeah, really, really lovely. And, you know, I think seeing that, but also seeing the behind the scenes stuff and seeing him talking about it and everything, it doesn't feel real, even though I knew he was going to be in these. I saw that he was on set last year when they were filming, and you know, David's mentioned it, and there've been a couple of hints towards it, but God, I think I need to stop talking about this because it's sad. So, Wild Blue Yonder, in conclusion, what an episode. I mean, I'm already starting to see the nothing happened criticism crop up, which I think is great and a real sign that this is something special. I think something that takes such an inward look at the show and the format and the characters and really, really getting into them and unpacking them as characters is inevitably going to be people going, what? They just stood around and talked for a whole episode, which I think is silly. If you want to tell me why you feel that this is bad in the comments, I'll hear you out. I really will. But right now, I can't fathom not liking it. I think that it's one of those things that, you know, some episodes it's like, oh yeah, not for me, but I can see why other people would like it. Or, yeah, I like it, but I can see why other people wouldn't. But this one, it's like, that was incredible. I can't wait to talk to everyone I know about the fact that this is incredible and this shared accepted fact that we all understand that Wild Blue Yonder was incredible Doctor Who. I think some of the criticism is probably fueled by the fact that this is not the bombastic 60th anniversary special that people were expecting. You know, it wasn't, you know, Matt Smith, Peter Capaldi, David Tennant, Jodie Whittaker, Christopher Eccleston all on screen together in a spaceship. But I think, you know, hot take here, I think a better way to celebrate Doctor Who than that would be to just show how good Doctor Who can be. I mean, last year, 2 episodes ago, we had Power of the Doctor, which ticked so many of the boxes that people claim to want, and it wasn't very good. I mean, it was fun, and I you know, had a bit of fun with it, and more fun than a lot of the Chibnall era, but it wasn't good. And I think to look at that and go, yeah, that's what we wanted this time, it doesn't compute with me. I think if we look at, you know, I mean, even the Star Beast, I think, is better than Power of the Doctor. And to take kind of real episodes like that and to go, oh, I wish it was a kind of cameo shit show nonsense fest for the 60 years. That's not the type of fan brain that I have. It's one that I can understand. And I mean, I do enjoy seeing people back. But, you know, I mean, we got Bernard Cribbins. What more could you want, really? Something about this episode that I am realizing as I record is that it doesn't really suit the kind of thoughts and impressions video format. I really enjoyed last week doing the Star Beast, and I'm enjoying this and getting the videos out quickly so I can talk about them as they're happening and all that. But this is an episode that I really want to be able to sit down and unpack, and I'm excited for myself and other people to do that over the next few months and to go, you know, let's really dig into this deep rather than just kind of superficially remember stuff. But at the same time, I'm glad I've got my thoughts out quickly because I don't know when I'm going to be able to do a proper video on it. Or if I'm even going to have anything to say, because it's actually quite difficult to get in front of the camera and go, Wild Blue Yonder is incredible and really good and I love it and I'd like to dive into why. I guess we could get into, it's a good episode, but it's not a great special. But honestly, showcasing that Doctor Who can be spectacular is a great way of celebrating it. And to be honest, an episode this good justifies the whole 60th bridge, you know, of these 3 episodes in between Jodie and Ncuti. It justifies them more than anything. It kind of, the whole experiment that this is, and the whole idea of going back to these characters and on this specific incarnation, it is fully justified by an episode this good, like an all-timer. I'm not sure if it's like a top 10 Doctor Who episode yet. I need to watch it again and sit on it for a while, sit with it. I do this every week. But just to see something this great be part of a weekly Doctor Who series, it's nice. And again, I hate to say it, it feels rare at the moment, but I really hope that it won't be rare for any longer. I thought it was an exciting cliffhanger, and I'm really looking forward to next week. It looks bigger and messier and kind of the third act finale of these 3 specials. I hope that means it's good and not, you know, messy. But to be honest, I had so much fun with this that I'm okay whatever happens next week. I know we're getting Ncuti, which doesn't feel real. We're getting Ncuti in less than a week. I mean, yeah, when I think about that, I'm really excited. And then when I think about losing the 14th Doctor, I'm like, couldn't we have another 5 years or so? But no, I mean, what a great time it is to be a Doctor Who fan. And I think that's all I have to say about Wild Blue Yonder for now. Thank you so much for watching, and thank you for watching last week's video as well. I was really happy with how that video did, and getting that kind of feedback on the format as well as opinions on the episode was really valuable in the comments. So yeah, please let me know what you thought about this episode. Let me know, as I said, what you think about how much Donna knows. Let me know if you would have preferred something different for the 60th. I do love reading different perspectives on these things, as long as you're not just complaining about how woke everything is. I hope you've enjoyed this video. I'm sorry if I'm a bit lower on energy. I watched Doctor Who at about 2 AM last night because I've been singing and dancing on stage all week in a production 9 to 5. So yeah, that's me. My theatre kid background has really come to the forefront and clashed with a very busy time to be a Doctor Who YouTuber. Not that I'm a Doctor Who YouTuber, I do other things as well. But yeah, please subscribe, please comment, please like, share. A third thing. Love you lots. See you next time.